Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Transform with Travel. I am Kelly Tolliday, and I'm here today to share a very amazing, fun, inspirational conversation with Frank Castro. He is the founder of Adventure International, which is a luxury trekking, mountaineering, surfing, U.S. national parks, you name it. If it's adventure, Frank and his team has got you covered from a logistics, itinerary, operational standpoint. I'm not sure if many of you know this, but I've actually jumped in a sales and marketing role with a beautiful company called Kinship. We are a global B2B representation and marketing company for some of the world's most unique and culturally rooted DMCs and properties from around the world. So if you are a travel advisor, be sure to check us out. We're able to connect you with some of the best partners that you could possibly be connected with. And so this conversation, I actually interviewed Frank, who's one of the DMCs that we represent. DMC means Destination Management Company for those who are not in the industry. And I was asked to interview Frank as part of the series for Voices of Kinship through my new company, Kinship. And I thought this conversation was so good that I wanted to share it with you guys as well. Be able to learn more about how to build a life of adventure, what the future of adventure travel looks like, and really digging deeper into what are some of these more transformative experiences that we can have while challenging ourselves on some of the world's coolest peaks, coolest mountains, surfing some of the most remote places around the world. So I'm really excited to share this conversation with Frank. For those who are a travel advisor listening, I highly recommend you head to our website, travelkinship.com, to learn more about the DMCs and properties that we represent. If you are a traveler looking to work with an advisor, be sure to mention Adventure International to them if you are looking to do any sort of incredible trekking or mountaineering from around the world. All right, I'll see you at the end. Welcome back to Voices of Kinship. We are spotlighting the change makers, the visionaries, and the pioneers shaping the future of travel. I'm Kelly Tolliday, and I'm thrilled to introduce a guest whose passion for adventure has not only built unforgettable journeys for travelers, but also lasting impact for communities around the world. So welcome to Frank Castro, the founder of Adventure International.
How you doing? How are you? It's good
Good.
to be here.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you here. You are tuning in from California, and I'm tuning all the way in from Florida. So we got some distance between us here, but luckily we're able to make today work to be able to share all about Adventure International and your story about what inspired you to create it. And I'd love to start with that is like all the way from the beginning. What was the inspiration for you to create Adventure International? And what was the defining moment where you knew like, okay, this is like a market, this is a thing that travelers and travel advisors need help with creating these types of experiences?
So, a little layered. I ended up in Tanzania for about 8 years on and off. And we started off as a local climbing outfitter, other people involved. We've had kind of iterations of ownership and partnerships, but essentially, we were in Arusha, Tanzania. We were young, and the market was really calling for like a really high level operator on Kilimanjaro. And so we thought, hey, how do we kind of do like a fancy version of Kilimanjaro? And what we found is in this quest of like trying to have this lifestyle business and do really cool, fancy things and, operate on the mountain, we really kind of became really passionate and became really dedicated to all of the people that were really the lifeline of this business, the guides, the porters, the cooks. Behind the scenes, it like kind of turned into a family. And so all of a sudden, the landscape of mountaineering and trekking was, to be really brutally transparent and honest, it was a lot of like expats or international companies kind of like price hounding local operators, and they would come manage a climb and bring clients. And this was kind of happening kind of all over the world. So we thought, what if we could actually create like a very high level ethical trekking outfitting business? And that's what we kind of set out to do. We really, you know, again, so much behind the scenes work in terms of low season training of guides, what we're doing around money management, HIV testing, really increasing the level of actual pay and salaries. We're one of the highest paying outfitters in the business. And this was all stuff that we just thought, you should just baseline, this should just be happening. But the truth is that really it, it's not always, and so, and that's unfortunate because of course owners of businesses and higher ups, they're not as affected as, sort of lower rung workers, right? And so that was really the genesis, is really we were just trying to do the right thing. And what was really interesting is that all of a sudden it kind of became a little bit of a paradigm shift. Now all these companies were like, well, hold on a second, we'll get more clients, and if we do the right thing and we do ethical practices. And so we kind of were really at the forefront of creating this little co-op consortia of like this monitoring party that was really, creating a list, being like, hey, here's the ethical operators if you're going to climb Kilimanjaro and things like that. And that was awesome. Like, it became cool to do the right thing and take care of your, your employees and workers and whatnot. So that was really kind of the genesis of, just kind of working in Tanzania and creating this, kind of like luxury trekking outfitter with like highly ethical, sustaining practices and top tier guiding and having top tier gear. And from there, we've just kind of got this hit about what might be next. A lot of luxury operators that we worked with who were hiring us on the ground were interested in expanding into the Himalayas. So we thought, wow, we've built this amazing ecosystem here. Could we replicate this in places like Nepal and the Himalayas and do this sort of like high end trekking, but really focus so much on, the foundation of what the operation is with porters. And so we decided to set out to go do that in the Himalayas. And in fact, when we were out there, our partners, who became our business partners there, actually included health insurance for their workers. So we're
Oh,
like, oh, this
wow.
is like a next
That's
level
next level.
into being
Yeah.
able to provide for workers. They were involved in reforestation projects and water filter projects. And so there we were thinking, hey, this is cool. We're able to actually, impact local economy, bring clients over and do good here. So the next sort of iteration was, hey, Latin America, Andes. That was sort of the next little kind of, just kind of finish that trifecta there. So we went down to Peru and sort of set up shop there to do the same thing. And then also in Ecuador as well. So those operations are a little smaller than what Nepal and Tanzania are. But that was it. All of a sudden it was like, wait, now we're global. Adventure International. I mean, as plain Jane as that
Yeah,
sounds, it's
right?
like how, you could tell what we do in the name, and so that was it. That we just kind of decided that here's this interesting little moment in time where the industry needed, that kind of support. Since then, we've got different verticals and we're doing all sorts of other stuff, but that was really kind of how we started, is really doing that. And it was interesting because like I grew up surfing, like I'm super passionate about surfing. I did some hiking and some climbing, but it wasn't like I like grew up in a climbing family.
Hmm.
But, it's interesting as young, you know, we're all guys, so like young men trying to be in the world and have businesses, we realized that, well, most trekking and climbing has logistics. You need guides, food, porters, cooks, you need gear. And some of these mountains, you need permit. It's illegal to go do it on your own. So we thought, well, people got to hire us. We got, so let's kind of be out there and support people. So here we are, like, I don't know, 15 plus years later or something. So
Yeah. And you mentioned surf, so you do offer itineraries for families or couples that are looking for luxury surf itineraries as well. And you also do work in US national parks. So basically, when I talk to advisors, I'm like, anything adventure related, just come to me and I'll introduce you to Frank and we'll
yeah.
figure something out. Like,
Yeah,
you have
it's
your
so
hand
it's
in.
such an interest. I know it's so interesting. We were just having this little catch up call, and I was speaking on a panel, and they're like, "Okay, intro you," and I'm like, "What this intro is so interesting." And so I had to kind of like wrap it up. And so what ended up happening is now we're this global mountaineering trekking outfitter, and we're working in these destinations. And now we're getting asked about, becoming involved on a deeper level, which is, hey, now we've got these ecodomes in Peru. which essentially is like this little lift in local economy, getting locals to work there. But now we've got this sort of like quote unquote property, but it's kind of not because it's like an ecodome. So it's like this
Mm.
light footprint place to put people. It's like glamping. And hey, that's adventurous. We're into that. Some people don't want to sleep on the ground. Now you got this dome with like a bed and a toilet and a shower. Great.
Which
Our whole purpose is to get people outdoors.
anyone that's done the Inca Trail knows that having your own toilet is a very big luxury. like
Yeah, I
to
mean,
go back
like,
somewhere and not be camping, and yeah, that's a
so
big deal.
the gap in the market was you either have brick and mortar or you have camping. So here's this little sweet spot. And so now we're like, can we kind of, how does that sit in the world of what we do? So we have this little adventure portfolio which houses all of our ecodome and glamping, because then in Nepal, the opportunity came to have this like on demand safari camp in the jungles of Bardia, where now we're stewarding this corridor of big game between India and Nepal. And we deliver water filters to the military who help with anti-poaching. And it's this like wild, amazing product. And all of a sudden we're like, this is like, we're doing this because of conservation. I mean, literally, one or two bookings a year helps pay off this private concession. And now clients can enjoy seeing a tiger drinking water. Like for me, I'm like, that is amazing to see
Hmm.
tigers in Nepal and take a helicopter up to the Himalayas and go trek. And so we started getting involved in a little bit more of that. Some friends of ours were doing these safari camps in the United States, we put those outside of the national parks. So now we're bringing this like safari product to the United States. And so we kind of got into this glamping ecodome sort of ecosystem. And that was really cool. We were like, cool, that's adventurous. It's in the spirit of what we do. And really kind of cut to, I was really like this big gypsy for 15 years, like setting up product operations. I mean, I'm not really a guide, trip leading and, things like that. And then I got married and had a kid. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, I can't really like take my baby to Patagonia or, go off and go to Everest Base Camp with the kid. So I was like, okay, like what does this look like? I kind of went back to my roots of surfing, spending some time in Costa Rica, was, going to like Fiji and Bocas del Toro, Panama, and going down the Galapagos and surfing. And I was like, surf, travel, like what? Who does that? And so again, I looked at the market and I was like, I don't really know if anybody's really doing like surf travel. So I was like, I don't know, this could be cool. Let's do like luxury surfing, private villas and chefs and go to cool spots. And we're like equipped as like a concierge or operator. So like if people want extensions, we can operate that too. And so that was fun. It was kind of just like that was like my like I got domesticated project is like let's
You're
do
like, I
like
need a
this
little,
like Lux surf thing.
yeah.
And so, we've all been through some really interesting, weird times with COVID in the tourism industry. And so COVID was a big awakening because, we diversified because we were always scared. What if we have all the eggs in the Africa basket? Well, now we have these other regions that we can play with. But COVID was like, we can't even leave the country. It was like, we're locked down. And at the time, because we were involved in these safari camps in the United States, very light level, that started blowing up. Like all of a sudden, people were like, "Oh my gosh, here are these families and people have clients who normally go spend on a safari or a Galapagos trip, or they're going to Nepal and doing these big trips. Are like, what do we do? Going crazy? We're at home. Well, here's this playground, the United States, and so." And I was kind of going to all the national parks and I was like, oh my God, like the US is beautiful. And I got invigorated, plus kid in tow, So we were doing
Hmm.
family travel national parks. And I was like, this is amazing. So that kind of sort of sparked that inspiration and curiosity about like, well, what's the landscape in the United States? Who's doing what? And so I was like, I don't know if there's anybody really doing like FIT custom privately guided national parks. We've talked about it, a couple people there. But anyways, what's a couple people? All good, right? So it's like that was the inspiration. So we kind of said, hey, let's do privately guided national parks. I live in California. There's not really anybody doing California. So we kind of launched California Journeys. And now, kind of in real time, we're sort of thinking about like, hey, like, National Parks USA, Canada's got beautiful things going on, Alaska, and being able to offer that to people. So at some point, I will stop trying to create new ventures, but I don't know.
I'm
It's
not
like,
sure. I'm not
yeah,
sure about that. I will.
yeah,
What comes to me when you talk about all this is really the common thread is people, clients that are just looking for the next big adventure for themselves or trying to challenge themselves physically, mentally, potentially bringing their family along. I think especially for an advisor who one might not know Kilimanjaro, and they might not know Himalayas, they might not know Machu Picchu, and they might not know just adventure travel at all. It's very overwhelming, and they want to know that they're going to work with an outfitter with a DMC that knows actually on the ground what's happening in real time. And I think that's what makes you different to potentially another DMC, or let's just say an outfitter on the ground, is because you've walked the walk, you've been to each of these locations, you've created them, you've created these journeys from scratch. And I would just love to know, like, in your opinion, when it comes to like an advisor looking to work with an adventure DMC, or let's say a DMC that's going to help them create an itinerary for Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, or for Everest and Himalayas, or whatever, Peru. What do you think makes like a truly great, exceptional adventure travel DMC? And how does Adventure International kind of bring it to that next level? Because there are people that are doing it, like you said. There's a few people here, a
yeah.
few people there. So why would what should an advisor look for, and why does Adventure International do it differently?
So we kind of hit this little sweet spot. There's this intersection that we kind of fill this need for. You've got this like there's a lot of listen, there's so many amazing companies doing great stuff. You've got these like really like luxury DMCs that do touring and they do it amazing and they bring in like private musicians and I mean, companies are doing beautiful things. But then there's the side of like someone who's going to go do like a high altitude climb or trek. Now it's like, hey, like you can't have Joe Schmo leading this high executive to this mountain. I mean, we're talking about like at this point, really like life and death, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, plus, like, what does the food look like? Like, where are you sleeping? Like, major logistics. So you've got this segment of the travel industry that's like so scared to even touch that because it's like unless you're driving in a car from point A to point B, like that feels like crazy to me. Like it does not feel safe. We shine in that area. Like we like love that because we're like, hey, we can totally do adventure. And now you've got this other side of the market, which is like uber adventurous. And these are like hardcore, rugged mountain guys. Some guys are like sleeping in their van and rock climbing, and they're just so hardcore. But it's a kind of like this like rustic hardcore. So they're not really meeting the demands of like what like a luxury client would want, right? So you've
Mm.
got these two little segments here. So we were like, hey, there's this little marriage that can happen where we could still provide this top tier, high adrenaline, challenging adventure, but like where you sleep at night is going to be like elevated. The food can be elevated. Like the guide can like walk the walk with like a Bill Gates or something. You know, it's just like we can kind of really cater to that discerning higher end client and really meet that. So really, I kind of feel like that's where we met that little sweet spot of being able to do this like luxury adventure, you know? And it's really to kind of go back to that question of like it's just adventure travel is really different. And I really kind of take it a step further from saying adventure travel, but like really trekking and mountaineering is really different in that like the risk assessment and risk management is really like next level stuff. Like you can't just take someone to some of the biggest peaks on the planet and it's like, hey, it's not like riding the train to Machu Picchu. Like we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about a different ball game. And so I what I see sometimes is I see companies or maybe even advisors, some or clients trying to like penny pinch or crunch companies for cheaper trips. And I want to go do this mountain. And I'm like, that's not a good practice. Like, really, what you want is someone to be reasonably priced, you know what you're getting, like someone that's definitely like a legit company doing this stuff because it can be dangerous. Like, let's be
Mm-hmm.
real, you know? I mean, God forbid. We are so lucky. We've never dealt with a death, but for sure we've had evacuations. All, that happens. Like, so you want to choose somebody who, honestly, for sorry my friends, shit goes wrong. Like, who's there? Like, are you
Mhm.
guys solution oriented? What is happening? So that's the difference, Like, we can all put someone at a Four Seasons in Cabo and Costa Rica and hang out and do a little biking trip or whatever, and all good, Like, the risk assessment on that is really low, but Kilimanjaro, things like that, it's next level. So yeah, that's kind of like what I feel like people should be looking for is, who's there to really like support you, and
Yeah.
support clients. Yeah.
I feel like being honest too, because sometimes when you're working with, let's say, a more like budget outfitter, they're just willing to take the trip, even though it might not be the best season, or there might be a reason why you wouldn't want to do that trip at that time. And someone working with someone like yourself who's going to be able to be really honest about, are we going, like, should you go at that time or should you not go at that time? Or I would recommend
Mm.
this over that, or just being very like transparent about the experience that's going to be, shared with them. And like you said, sometimes things do happen. And so what's the, like you said, the risk assessment, but at the other end of it is like, what has been your procedures to deal with something like that? Because things can happen. And I feel like that trust and transparency is super important.
So when you're talking about choosing, a company to work with in terms of providing this like adventure trip, well, it's really important to really find out what a client wants to do. And I just bring this up because it's happened before where people have this romantic idea about like remote trekking and like finding themselves and having this like sojourn, and then they get to a place like Kilimanjaro or Everest Base Camp and it is packed. There's a lot of people. I mean, these are like iconic places that people go hiking. So it's almost like saying like, "Oh, I want to go to Machu Picchu and there'll be nobody there and I can get my selfie." And it's like, "No, no, man. There's like hundreds of people at Machu Picchu, like unless you're doing some private entry or something." So I think that's also really important is figuring out what people really want to do on the ground because of course there's remote trekking and beautiful stuff to do outside of sort of these main tracks, but sometimes people just don't know better, right? And they're like, oh, just go there, go to Annapurna's. It's like there's a lot of people around, so yeah.
Yeah. I think what I have found that you guys do really well is giving the, it's not just about the adventure only either, is that you also give, if there's a big group of people and perhaps there's different interests that different people in the group have, or maybe, yeah, the peak of the trip is Kilimanjaro, but you're also able to tack on safari in Zanzibar, or Machu Picchu, of course, is like the peak of what people are there for, but you're also showing the other side of Peru, maybe through Sacred Valley or doing another hike or going through the lakes or Cusco. So I think that's something to be said as well, is it's not always just about the adventure side of it. And some adventure companies really only can do adventure well, whereas Adventure International not only does the adventure side of it exceptionally well, but you're also able to piece together a really balanced itinerary so that they get a whole picture of the culture as well.
This is why you're so good at like facilitating. You bring up this really good point. So yeah, and I think that was another, I don't know if I don't want to say if it's a gap, but I think where we saw the opportunity was, yeah, you've got these folks that are like super hardcore climbers and mountaineers who, again, I'm sure they put on an exceptional climb on these mountains, right? But then it was like, oh, we want to go on safari. And now, like, I've seen some of these itineraries because, of course, lots of times we're comparing itineraries and what can you do? And I'm like, let's see if this is apples to apples. And I'll see some of these camp choices, and I'm like, wow, I would never put somebody there, but they don't know better. So they're like, this is how you do a safari, or like climbing Cotopaxi in Ecuador and then heading off to Galapagos and doing, you know what I mean? So what we found was like, hold on, let's like kind of marry this up. Let's keep this itinerary like high level and do these awesome extensions. And that's when we were like, well, hold on a second. How can we do these extensions at a high level? Like now we can go do like privately guided Galapagos, staying at amazing hotels with private yachts and then doing like airplane hops to different islands. And like, so now you're getting this like amazing top tier, like run climb, but then also the extension fits, it matches. And so, yeah, at the end of the day, I'm kind of like, yeah, we're like kind of this like adventure concierge, you know? Like we would never say that, but you know, I think that's kind of what it ends up being. So
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the, in my opinion, part of the future of adventure travel is it's not just about the adventure piece. Of course, people want that, but it's bringing a really holistic approach to the itinerary. Speaking of, I guess, trends in travel, what are you seeing from requests coming in, from just being a leader in the adventure travel space? What are you seeing in terms of trends, and how is Adventure International kind of adapting to meet those needs, or shaping the needs themselves, like shaping the industry itself?
I think in general, what you're finding is that adventure travel in general is like more and more and more. And I think it's because this addresses the mental crisis that's happening mostly here in the United States, but also I would say globally. And that is that people are on screens a lot more, technology, people are in survival mode. And honestly, like the biggest medicine that I found is nature and being connected to people, stepping outside of your comfort zone. Like for me, that has always been like the best medicine. Sure, there's hacky stuff like sauna, cold plunging, and whatever, but that at its like most simplest form is like go hike for like a week somewhere remote. I promise you, you will feel better. You'll run into like nice people who live in a village. You share a cup of tea and you're having conversation. Like you come back, and I think that's why people chase it. That's what we found. Like you do one adventure somewhere and now you're like, oh, where's the next thing, you know? And you have all these beautiful hotspots that people kind of go to, right? Patagonia and Machu Picchu and Himalayas and Kilimanjaro, and there's this kind of network of places that people want to go. They want to go because they need a reset. They want to go because they want transformation. They want to go just to kind of like do something new and like be in the world. So there's important work we do, you know. I think travel is like it's really important, really kind of helping support people be global citizens, right? So in general, I think that's the trend. People are just looking for some sanity, some joy and peace in their hearts, you know. How do we do that?
And
Go
what's
somewhere, you know.
What's interesting is the joy and peace. What I find is the most heightened after a physical challenge. And so I don't know if you've ever read the book, the Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter, but he talks about the more
I
comfortable
know
we've
about it, but
become.
yeah,
Yeah, the more comfortable
yeah.
we've become as a society, the more unsatisfied that we've become. And so people are seeking out adventures to challenge themselves so that they can feel alive again, so that they're connected with nature again. And you really don't need that much. Like it's like a couple days in nature. You need one dunk in the ocean and you immediately feel better. So I think, like you said, the work that you're doing is transformational. And I would like to touch on that in terms of like, you see people go through really physically challenging, even if they're like they've trained for it and they're ready for it and they're already physically fit or mentally fit. You get on day 5 of a trek and your mind starts to go a little haywire, right? Travel is known for its ability to transform people. Can you share like a story of a traveler who might have had like a life-changing experience or a aha moment that made you realize, okay, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing?
Well, I can speak to it personally.
Yeah,
I
sure.
mean, literally, my life changed because I got to the summit of Kilimanjaro. Like, I mean, as cliche as that sounds, and I know that one of the founders of Google got up there too, and then he came back and like quit his job and was like, I was on the summit of Kilimanjaro and went in a whole other direction. I mean, yeah, you kind of like all of a sudden things just come into perspective when you're doing these things. I think the greatest thing is I've literally seen a billionaire talking to one of our guides, Tanzanian guy. People are very simple in Tanzania. I mean, I can't tell you how much money in the bank is there, right? But that is insane that these guys are walking like they're just like walking as like human beings in this experience trying to get to the summit of Kilimanjaro. And I was like, that is so beautiful. Like right now we've like set aside our differences, but what created that was the container of that journey. It was like, hey, we're on this like similar path. We're in nature. We need each other because you're guiding and I'm here and I need to survive. And we're all here for the same purpose. And we're all super present. We're outside. We're really just like trying to keep our good spirits. And it's like, yeah, like all of a sudden you are like, oh, I'm not at my desk getting angry emails from somebody right now, or the pressure of I need to make $1 million today. And, here we are. We're just on this long walk, right? There's like that saying, that like that quote, that spiritual quote, right? We're all just walking each other home.
Hmm.
It kind of feels like that, that you're all just like, hey, what's happening with you? It doesn't matter how much money you have. People still get divorced. There's still death. There's still situations, and you're like, oh wow, like that private plane didn't protect you from this like life situation.
Yeah.
So,
It like evens
um,
the playing field a little bit when you're all walking the same path. You're literally walking the same
totally.
path. Yeah. Yeah.
Totally. And you learn a lot. I was in Patagonia and I was like speaking Spanish with this gaucho. He's cooking steak. He's got this like mate staring at Torres del Paine, and he's like spitting out wisdom. I was like, wow, like I could sit with you here for like a week and just
Hmm.
talk about life. It was so epic. I was like, this is the magic. The magic is like this moment right now. The magic wasn't even going to like, that iconic hike. It was just sitting with this guy and just talking about life. It was like something happened. I was like, oh, I call those like God shots, those
Hmm.
like God shot moments. So yeah, I think it's powerful stuff without kind of getting so esoteric and shoving it down people's throats. Like,
Right.
let them have their discovery,
Hmm.
let them have their transformation, because it happens. Most people, unless you like horrifically messed up a trip and people are pissed off, oftentimes, people have their own little aha moments. So,
Yeah.
and it's the best to be able to share that with the kids. I'm a big fan because, I'm a parent, is family travel. Like, get your kids traveling. I just took my daughter to Tanzania on safari. Oh my gosh, she like loved speaking to the guide in Swahili and looking at animals, and she saw like how people lived, and she's like, "Oh my gosh." And I don't know, it was just so amazing. I was like, "Wow, that's cool. I'm glad you have the temperament to travel." But it was really important. And so it's important to get our kids out of the little bubble.
Yeah, I guess this is totally going off the cuff. I don't have a question here for this, but I'm a mom myself of a 5 and a 3-year-old, so
Mm.
selfishly answering this. My kids love to travel. My little 3-year-old wears a little dress from Thailand every day and asks me when we're going back. So there's like a
Oh,
slap in
that's
the face
sweet.
every day. I'm like, I wish we were in Thailand right now, but we're not. But
Yeah.
speaking of family travel, what would be, let's just say for this particular itinerary or trip to Tanzania, what would be kind of your guidelines for ages? If you got a family who's quite adventurous, and they wanted to go to Tanzania, do safaris, Zanzibar, maybe not climb Mount Kilimanjaro with super young kids, but what's kind of your guideline for something like that? Even maybe a Machu Picchu. I saw families on the Inca Trail with maybe like a 6 and a 7-year-old.
Mm.
So what would be kind of your personal recommendation for that kind of thing? Because we are seeing families getting way more involved with adventure travel than ever before.
Yeah, I mean, you know, in terms of some of the like big climbs, a lot of times it's that like 15, 16 is sort of that like sweet spot, to start getting into like major high altitude. Listen, there's been kids younger. I'm not saying it's not possible. But really, I think with Tanzania, like Tanzania is amazing with kids. I mean, you're able to do safaris with kids. You can include like Maasai, like going into like doing cultural visits. You can go do walks with Maasai. There's different like waterfall hikes that you can do. There's seriously like so much that you can do. I would say like, what's your little home base? And then be able to do like some day excursions from there. I would say, yeah, when you're with families, it starts to turn a little bit more to like soft adventure.
Mm-hmm.
Even in
Mm-hmm.
Peru, staying at the eco camps is like cool. It's contained. Get a nice good sleep. You can go do a hike up to Humantai Lake or whatever. I mean, the Galapagos is like epic for kids, right? Especially if you're doing like private excursions. Hey, a lot of time to go snorkel and do some stuff, or go ride a bike and check out giant tortoises. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think
Is that
sometimes some of
were you thinking Galapagos more skewing a little younger then, like 6, 7, 8, or what would?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I think the Perus, the Ecuadors can handle younger children, even Tanzania. I think places like Patagonia can be a little challenging, but you can kind of stay somewhere and do. It just depends, right? Like what's the mileage? Like what are you going to be doing here for the next couple of days? And if it's like serious mileage, that gets a little tough if there's
Yeah.
not other things to do. So you want to make sure that there's like enough to keep the family happy, right? Especially like
Yeah.
multi-gen families too. All of a sudden, you got grandparents, you got the parents, you got the kids. What can everybody do to have a good time, So,
Yeah, amazing. And that's why working with a provider like yourselves is able to give that really honest feedback of what do you want out of the trip, and would this trip be better as an adults only escape maybe?
mm,
Or is this an
yeah,
amazing opportunity for the whole family to enjoy themselves? It's like setting those expectations ahead of time.
right,
So
right.
looking ahead, I want to wrap up here. Looking ahead, what excites you the most about the future of adventure travel, the future of Adventure International? What are you the most excited to see?
I think there was like this moment where I was like doing so much like chasing. And I think like now I'm just really excited about like feeling a lot more grounded and like just slowing it all down. And in a way, maybe that relates to like the programming we do. It's kind of like I think we're always like the big challenges and power packed itineraries and da da da. Now I'm like, maybe we just like slow it all down. So I'm kind of hoping that like I'm kind of looking forward to maybe people slowing down a little bit, right? Like really taking that time. So I don't know. And I also think like as we're kind of doing stuff in the United States, that's really exciting actually.
Hmm.
I think that that's really piqued my like super like little boy like, oh my gosh, this seems so fun. We've been involved in these international destinations for a really long time, and of course there's always some cool stuff happening. But yeah, I think this like North America thing is like really, really cool. And I know that people are freaked out, but we were just talking about this. There's some big companies that sort of kind of went off the map. And so this is an opportunity, again, at really kind of like behind the scenes of like, hey, how do we get people working? So I'm excited to like create something where people can like work and like they can provide for their families and we can provide awesome experiences. And I was saying earlier, across the border in Canada, people are freaked out like that they might not have business. And so I'm like, wait, yeah, like doing stuff in Canada is awesome, and Alaska. And, we always think like, oh, people need to like abroad, we help people and get people working. But it's kind of like this mirror going, wait, what about here at home, right? Like right here, like in the backyard, like people still need to work, or they're kind of freaked out about like what's the future of travel. So I think that, yeah, like I think in the moment, if you ask me, like that's what's really exciting is, this potential of North America. So
Yeah, that's amazing. And I also think we're at a really pivotal time for people to you can't appreciate and protect what you haven't experienced yet. And so there's a really pivotal moment in history to get more people to fall in love with national parks and fall in love with the nature in our own backyard, and you're able to play a hand in that with your amazing partnerships and relationships and experience. So for anyone that's listening, advisors, if you want to be connected to Frank and Adventure International for your own client trips coming up, please feel free to reach out to us here at Travel Kinship. We'll make the introduction for you. You can check out his website. Everything will be linked below in the show notes. And Frank, do you want to leave people with any way to connect with you personally or any last words of wisdom?
just have him talk to you. Talk to Kelly. Kelly will guide you. No, and what I just want to end on this because it's really interesting, this full circle moment of like how we kind of started like so exotic, and now we're kind of coming back to like, I grew up here, in the States, and so I was like, oh wow, we're kind of full circle moment coming back here to like get people engaged and going out into nature, so that like if they're not ready to do some of this bigger stuff, here's like the little introduction, and then you can kind of start spreading out and doing the bigger stuff. We kind of started like reverse, but it's a nice little full circle moment. But yeah, I don't know, we're available on all the channels and stuff, but I think, yeah, adventureinternational.com. I don't know, there's so many, it's like so many ways. That's why I'm like, talk to Kelly.
Just talk to
Kelly
me.
will
All
guide you.
good. Kelly at
Yeah,
travelkinship.com. Feel free to reach out. That's
yeah.
awesome. Thanks, Frank. I appreciate your time.
Okay, cool, awesome, thank you so much.
That's a wrap on today's episode. If you're feeling on fire and lit up to start planning the bucket list adventure you're craving, let's work together. I'm here to manage all of the hassle of planning, hand select your options specifically for you, and give you the inside scoop that no AI itinerary can give you. Click the link in the show notes to look through our pricing and packages. You're one click away from the adventure of a lifetime. This is your reminder to keep on exploring.